Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be kind of putting a bow on top of my Faction Wars playlist. As of yesterday, I finally have a dedicated video for every single faction, so I thought it'd be fun just to kind of wrap things up, and in the process, I'm going to walk through each faction and tell you who I think is the most crucial champion to have as far as being a hard carry and helping you to complete that faction. So, let's get into it. Alrighty, so first of all, just looking at the map really quickly here, my final consensus, as far as the 5 hardest factions, I would say Skinwalker, Night Rev, Undead, probably Orc and Dwarf. Ogryn is also really tough. That's like an honorable mention. So, yeah, that would be the hardest ones. The easiest ones would probably be Lizardmen, Barbarians, and High Elves, if I had to pick like the 3 easiest. So now let's go ahead and dive into the index and go through and talk about the most vital champs. So we'll just start top left and touch on Bannerlords here. Okay, so for the Bannerlords, I'm going to say the most crucial champ is going to be Raglan, because having a Void Affinity legendary that has a super reliable revive, that's a 2-turn cooldown on booked, and also has a defense aura in all battles, and an A1 that fills turn meter. Revive is such an amazing mechanic in Faction Wars because it helps you collect those 3-star clears. Because if you lose somebody, obviously you can pick them back up and make up for that loss and go ahead and scoop up the 3-star even if somebody died. And then Raglan's amazing besides that. And then an honorable mention is going to go out to Stag Knight, who is probably the best general utility epic in the game because of the super reliable 3-turn cooldown, big version of defense break and attack down. That is an amazing ability in terms of just helping you progress in Faction Wars. So an honorable mention to Stag Knight as well as Raglan. And then next is going to be the High Elves, and I'll do one on each tier here. But if I had to pick one that is like the carry, I would say Arbiter. So once you complete your missions and get your Arbiter, most of you out there are probably going to be able to do the High Elves if you've been doing a good job on grinding your gear and developing your account. That's the best legendary, obviously, because of the revive and the turn meter boosting and everything she brings to the table. We already discussed why revive is so important. Then I would say Tyrell is probably the best general utility champion to help you progress in Faction Wars as far as the epics, so honorable mention to him. And then obviously I have to honorable mention Apothecary, one of the best rares in the game. It is just an insane, I mean, just having him, Arbiter, and Tyrell right there with that little trio, you could probably put a pretty good dent into Faction Wars and probably even complete it once you get everything developed. Then for Sacred Order, okay, so I'm probably gonna say the most crucial champion that would help you kind of carry your faction would be Sir Nick, an HP scaling champion with CCA1, places shielding. Shielding is amazing in raid, so doing and he's got an AoE damage dealing shield, which is awesome. HP aura in all battles is incredible. He's just an amazing utility champion. But I do want to give a shout out to Cardinal because of obviously the revive ability and being Void Affinity. Revive is, we've already touched on that twice. So yeah, Cardinal gets an honorable mention as well. Then for the Barbarians, this is going to be another one where I'm going to touch on one of each tier. And for the top, I'm actually going to give it to Syl in terms of being the most crucial. Again, she's got revive, so I absolutely love that. And then we've got a defense scaling champion that decreases speed and also does AoE CC with a stun and has a passive that does heals, so really covers all of the bases. She scales with defense or HP. She's got a utility A1. She's got revive. She does healing. She's got a great passive. She's got CC. She's got AoE. Just really covers all of the bases that you would want in terms of progressing in the Faction Wars for the Barbarians. And then I'm also going to give a shout out to Sky Touch. Can crank out the heals. I've got a video about Sky Touch where I did like 5 million healing in a Faction Wars run with her, and I did use her in my first team that finished Faction Wars, so definitely shout out to her for being the most carry epic. And then the most carry rare, there's a few good ones here for the Barbarians. I'm going to give it to War Maiden, again similar to Stag Knight. The 3-turn AoE defense break is just too reliable and super crucial, so a lot of your endgame teams are going to have a War Maiden as well, but I would give the MVP to Syl in terms of being the carry for the faction. And then the Ogryn Tribes. We'll do this one similarly. This one's tough. I'm gonna give the overall faction carry probably to Ignatius. Again, defense scaling champion with some CC, with the A1 utility, the defense aura, just amazing champion to help you out in the Ogryn Tribes. And then for Epic, I would say Grush. Grush helped me to complete it a lot. The A1 that places Leech is basically going to give your whole team a baby lifesteal set. Lots of utility here for an Epic. And then Bellower, I would say Bellower and Apothecary are tied for the best rare in the game. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for. They're both amazing supports. So Bellower, you get him in a stun set. He's got all of his abilities that do AoE. He is a ridiculous wave carry when you get him in stun set plus fearsome presence. Good speed, good accuracy, and just let him go ahead and CC everything, because he also brings other CC as part of his kit with the block cooldown skills on the A1. So yeah, him and Apothecary, the best rares in the game, and definitely had to shout him out when going over Ogryn. Then for the Lizardmen, this one's interesting because there's a few different ways you could go with this. You could technically say Skull-Lord Vargal is the carry for the fusion, because you can do a meme strat with Vargal and Skullsworn, and then just use Skullsworn to tank everything. I've got a dedicated video on this strat if you're struggling with Lizardmen. So you can use Skullsworn to kind of tank everything and then get revived every turn. So I guess you could technically say that Skull-Lord could have been a candidate for the carry for Faction Wars, but I wanted to give it to Chris. Just for utility in the faction, I think it has to go to Chris. He's just too good with the AoE, big version of decreased speed, scaling with defense. He's got a shield set as a passive, like an awesome shield set, 50%. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about Chris. He's a ridiculous champion. And then in terms of the epics, I would give it to Jareg as a shout out, as an honorable mention in the epic tier. And then for the rares, there's really not a whole lot of great rares besides unless you're doing the meme strat with Skull Swarm. But I do have to give a little bit of a shout out to HyperX, who's kind of like a baby version of Apothecary, and he does have a revive, so I wanted to make sure and let you know about that. You already know revive is super handy in Faction Wars, so HyperX goes on the honorable mention as well. Then for Skinwalkers, so Skinwalkers really struggle with some of those waves, like the Sathalia, the triple Sathalia wave and the Valkyrie wave. So being able to block buffs is just so amazing. I'm gonna give it to Norog. Again, a toughness scaling champion with an A1 that has CC, and then this right here, this 3-turn AoE block buffs is ridiculous. So I like that alone is such a hard carry that I'm gonna give it to Norog for the Skinwalkers. But then in terms of the other tiers here, epic, I'm gonna give it to Steel Skull. Almost every single endgame team for Skinwalkers has Steel Skull in it, so definitely develop your Steel Skull if you've got him. And then for the rares, I guess if I had to shout one out, I would give it to Greybeard because of the A1 that has CC. You can tell a theme by now. I love CC. It ends up being so clutch in Faction Wars when you're trying to progress. And then he's also got the AoE freeze here in scales with defense as well, so he deserved a shout out. Now moving into Orcs, this is an interesting one because I would actually give the Faction Wars carry to not a legendary. I would give it to Vrask. Vrask, with the heals that he can crank out if you get him in a relentless set or you get him in high speed and get him that crit rate, it's just so crucial in helping you to progress the Orcs faction and be able to take down the boss and sustain what it's doing to you. So yeah, Vrask is going to get the carry in terms of being the most vital champion, in my opinion, to progress in Orcs. If I had to pick a legendary, like Warlord is incredible, but his mechanic of doing this is it can throw you off a little bit. He can throw you off a little bit in the boss fight, so I would probably give it to Angar just because of the ridiculous 44% HP. That's incredible. So yeah, I would probably give it to Angar if I had to honorable mention a legendary here. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go with Vrask as the carry, in my opinion, for the Orcs. Then for Demonspawn, I mean, come on, you already know. I'll give you 3 seconds. Who is it? 3, 2, 1. It's got to be Duchess. You guys know what I like. I like toughness scaling champions. She's got it. She scales the defense. She's got a speed aura. Incredible. And what does she do? She does revive. So it goes to Duchess. She is the carry for the Demonspawn. Absolutely love Duchess. An amazing progression champion. If I had to shout out an epic, gosh, it's tough. You know, I thought about this for a couple minutes, and I would probably give it to Umbral, honestly, because being able to do the AoE block buffs and place that CC on your opponents, the block buffs here, and then the provoke, to be constantly locking things down. You just want to be careful, and there's certain times where you want to manual her, so you can get this this A2 off, block the buffs, and then do the provoke and start your cooldown. That's a good rotation to kind of know about Umbral. But yeah, I would give it to Duchess, and then shout out Umbral in terms of being amazing for Demonspawn. Then moving into Undead, I mean, this one's tough. The Undead have so many good legendaries. Rhodos, Saito, Elegaius, Skartorsis can be really good in Faction Wars. Bad L, obviously. Mashaled got a ridiculous buff. Nethrol's amazing. Harvest Jack can have a lot of utility. And then obviously Siphi doesn't even need an introduction, and that's actually who I'm going to give it to. I'm going to say Siphi because you already know she's got revive, she places ridiculous buffs, she's void, she's got an A1 that has CC. You really can't go wrong. Siphi's one of the best champions in the game. A lot of people think she is the best, and against the boss you're going to be going up against on stage 21 for Undead, you're probably going to need revive. So that leads me into also shouting out Gorgarab, because he has revive on his kit, and you're probably going to need that when you're going up against the last stage. I don't have Siphi, so I did have Gorgarab in my team. And there is also a rare that is worth shouting out. Grinner does not get enough love from the raid community. This guy is incredible. He's got an A1 that increases attack. Why not? It's not great, but it's something. But then this AoE buff removal on the A2 here can get to a 3-turn cooldown. That ability is really good for a rare. And then what's he got? He's got revive in place of shield, so you're gonna need that. If you don't have Gorgarab, if you don't have Siphi or something, Grinner can be a good option to help you get those clutch revives in to progress in Undead. Moving on to Dark Elves. You know what? I'm gonna give the faction carry. This one's tough. This one's really tough. I'm gonna give it to Lydia. No, I'm kidding. You don't even have Lydia until you finish Faction Wars. Okay, I had to joke around with you guys for a little bit, but no, I'm gonna give it to Blind Seer because you already know the parameters. She's got revive. It's just too good, and Blind Seer also has a lot of utility besides that. A massive defense aura in all battles, Terminator boost on the A1, and then some pretty cool buffs here on the A2s, and being Void Affinity with a 115 Insanity base speed. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Blind Seer, but there are a lot of the Dark Elves is a tough one. There's some good choices in terms of shouting out an epic. It's almost impossible to pick between Kaden and Sylar. I'm gonna go with Sylar, just kind of like Bellower, all AoE here, and if you get her in a stun set with Fearsome Presence, the AoE decreased speed is almost permanent if you get her in good speed. And then you get her in a stun set with all the CC of the A1, and then it's basically a resistance buff for your team because you're placing the decreased accuracy on an AoE. Yeah, Sylar, I had to give it to her because she's Void Affinity, just brings so much utility in so many different ways to kind of play around with her in terms of building a good squad. And then for the rares, Painkeeper deserves a shout out. Amazing rare that can really help you progress if you're struggling in the Dark Elves and looking for a cheaper champion to build. She just brings lots to the table in terms of heals, and then the combat tactics is pretty cool. It's kind of like a baby Kymar ability here to help you get cooldowns back as fast as possible. And then we move into Night Revenant. I have nightmares about Night Revenant. This was brutal for me. I'm going to give the carry to Soulless. The ridiculous aura of 44% in faction crypts is crazy. Super reliable CC on the A1. Scales with toughness. We got a defense scaling champion, but probably most importantly is going to be all of the CCing that he does here between not only the A1, but you've also got the 3 times at random placing a provoke, and then you've also got the AoE that is going to be increasing the duration of debuffs, and then placing a provoke. You're gonna need it in Night Rev. Night Rev really struggle to get through the Valkyrie wave you're gonna be facing later on. So yeah, Soulless is gonna be the carry for me. It was really tough to pick between him and Hegemon and Tomb Lord. Then for the epics, that's an easy one in Night Rev. Doom Priest is a hard carry. She is so good. If you guys got Doom Priest, get her developed, because you're going to want her when you're trying to progress in Night Rev. You get her in as much speed as you can give her, lots of HP, lots of toughness, and just let her crank out the turns and help you sustain all those rounds by these constant heals and cleansing that she is going to do. Just be careful on doing her A2. It places a lot of buffs on her AoE, and you can really throw off the Valkyries. So you may want to be doing manual A1s and just let her crank out turns and be a carry for you. And lastly, here is the Dwarves. This is a super easy one. It's going to be Molly. You guys already know. And by the way, she looks just incredible now. That she used to look really wonky. She'd be sitting there with her hot dog on a stick like this, and now she looks just so cool. She's just ready to go. I love the changes they've done to the Dwarves. They made them look awesome. So yeah, Molly. Obviously, the revive, you're gonna need it. Dwarves is probably the hardest faction wars, or probably the one that I hear people complain about the most, because it's got that boss that has the A1 that ignores defense. The Dwarves are a very defensive faction. Molly, Torment, all these champions that go with defense, and then you make defense worthless. So yeah, Dwarves extremely difficult, and Molly is makes it a lot easier. I feel bad for people that don't have Molly, or maybe Molly was actually a fusion back in the day, if some of you are newer to the game. So I feel bad for those of you that don't have Molly and weren't around for the fusion, because I get it. Dwarves is going to be really, really tough to finish. And then the shout out for the epics is going to be Rearguard Sergeant. Absolutely incredible epic that's got the defense break, and then the ally protection to kind of help you sustain, along with the continuous heals. And then if I had to shout out a rare, it would be the new one, Veer, the Alchemage. Now, this guy is super new to raid. As of me recording this video, I think he's only been out for like a month. But yeah, amazing rare. We've got poison on the A1, the A2 that decrease attack, and then also places decreased speed. Very good. And then we're getting turn meter fill, kind of like an apothecary type utility support rare here. So and then we also get heals to boot. So yeah, Veer, amazing, and definitely deserved a shout out on the Dwarves. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. It was a fun journey getting to the 819 and finishing faction wars. I hope they release more mechanics like this to raid, because it was really fun to theory craft and build a bunch of different teams, and really gives the player base something to do. I hope the Doom Tower, now that people are starting to kind of finish faction wars, I hope Doom Tower becomes that new end game progression thing that we all need to really dive in and start working on min-maxing. So it was fun to make all the videos about faction wars and dive into each individual faction, and I had a lot of fun trying to complete it as well. So this will probably be one of the last videos I do for this playlist on faction wars. I hope you guys are enjoying the journey on faction wars, and as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.